Morning, Tanya.
Morning, Elizabeth. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. All right. So this video is about immigration and buying real estate in Canada. I think those are two of the hottest topics in Hong Kong right now for people who want to come to Canada. My name is Elizabeth Lawn. I'm an immigration lawyer in Toronto. And
I'm
Tanya,
Tania Wong, and I'm a real estate agent here in Toronto.
wonderful. So I'm going to start off with my presentation today, and then we can have a little bit of discussion about immigration afterwards. All right. So there are some really exciting immigration policies that the Canadian government has announced just recently, especially dedicated to Hong Kong passport holders. The first one, which is currently in place, is an open work permit for Hong Kong passport holder. And it allows anyone who has a post-secondary degree that's obtained anywhere in the world. It does not have to be in Canada. It could be in Hong Kong. You have to have obtained it in the last 5 years when you apply. It could be a university degree, bachelor's, master's, PhD, or if it's a college degree, it has to be at least 2 years. Okay. Now, it doesn't even have to be a degree. It could be a college certificate or a college diploma. Okay. Now, if you obtain your program anywhere outside of Canada, you do have to have it evaluated by a third party it's called Education Credential Assessment. Okay. And then if you have that, you can apply for an open work permit. You can work for anyone in Canada, and it's good for 3 years. Your spouse, that includes someone you're married to, and your common law spouse, so someone you have lived with for at least 1 year, and any accompanying children can also come with you. Your children, if they're minor children, they can study in Canada without paying international student fees. Your spouse can get an open work permit. Now, currently, because of the pandemic, we do have some restrictions in place in the border that are not normal. And one of the restrictions is people who don't have a job offer, they may not be able to enter. So if you get the work permit and you don't have a job offer, you may have to wait a little bit until the borders open, and then you can come. But this is an excellent work permit because for the most part, for people to get a work permit in Canada, it's very difficult. You have to have an employer who has to apply for a LMIA, which means that they have to advertise and show they can't find a Canadian to do the job before you can actually get the work permit. So it's very difficult. This is a very good work permit, and it's only open for Hong Kong passport holders. There are also some upcoming pathways for permanent residents of Hong Kong residents. Now, these pathways have been announced that they are going to come into place. They're not currently in place at this present time, but the government has announced that they will be in place. We are thinking it's sometime this year. There's the first one, and it's for those people who have worked in Canada for at least a year. Some of the unknowns, because it's not in place yet, are there minimum language results, or is there any education requirements? We don't know, okay? You know, this immigration law changes so much, and this video that we are doing right now is true today, and it very well could change tomorrow. So if you have registered for this webinar, we will be adding you onto our newsletter where we will send out new news when it comes into place. And when these programs come into place, we will be sending you new news. And if you're watching this webinar and you want to sign up to the newsletter, please feel free to go to our website at lmlawgroup, lmlawgroup.com. So, something else, we don't know if this work is high skilled. In general, we have seen that these three criteria have often been the criteria that the government has emphasized. We don't know if this is going to be some of the criteria, one or all of these will be criteria, but we'll see, okay? Also, we don't know if it's self-employment work. The second one is those who have studied in Canada in a post-secondary institution. We don't know if this is going to be public college or university. We don't know if there are going to be a number of years that the program has to be. For example, for the Hong Kong one, they want at least 2 years or at least a degree from a university. So we'll see. Once these programs are in place, then we'll announce it. But in essence, these permanent residence programs reward those people who have come to Canada to work or study first. And again, you lucky Hong Kong residents, if you have the Hong Kong passport and you're able to study in Canada, obtain a study permit, you can do that right now. Or if you can apply for the work permit, once you've come to Canada, this is a very good route or routes for you to get permanent residence. I can just explain about some other permanent resident programs. These are programs that are available to everyone in the world. So if you don't fit into the previous criteria, you may consider this. The first one that is one of the most popular skilled worker programs is the Express Entry program. Now, the problem with this is you have to have enough points so that when the government announces a draw, so the government announces a draw every 2 weeks and they announce a points level. And they are selecting people with the highest level of points. So you're in a competition with the rest of the people in the world who also want to apply to Canada. And so if you don't have ties to Canada, if you don't have you haven't studied or you worked in Canada, right now the points are at a certain level where most of the people who can actually come without working or studying in Canada, you have to be under the age of 30 or maybe a little bit above, but your points start going down at the age of 30. Okay, you have to have a very high IELTS exam results. We're talking at least 7s in reading, writing, and speaking, and 8 in listening on all of them. 2 degrees or a 3-year program and another 1-year program, and at least 3 years of high-skilled work experience. You have to be basically a superstar by the age of 30, 2 degrees, 3, and a really, really high English score. Now, we do have other ways, for example, for entrepreneurs who are senior executive managers. If you start your own company in Canada and you work in Canada for a year, you can get 200 points if you have one of the employer specific work permits for Express Entry, and that will get a lot of the entrepreneurs in under Express Entry. There's another program called the Startup Visa, and this is really for people who are going to start up companies that are very innovative in Canada and that receives the support of designated organizations such as incubators or angel investor groups that are listed by the government. This is a very good program as well. A lot of people ask me about provincial nominee programs. Provincial nominee programs are programs that are set up by each province. So immigration is federal jurisdiction. However, the federal government has also made an agreement with every province to allow each province to have their own programs. Now, a lot of people say, well, I'd love to apply to these provincial nominee programs. How can I do that? For the most part, you may not be able to if you don't already have ties to Canada, such as you have a job offer or you've studied in the province, or you're going to start a business in the province. And a lot of people say, well, I've heard someone told me if I invest a certain amount, I can immigrate. The provincial nominee programs for businesses have changed a lot. Most of them will require you to have already set up a business, show after a year and a half that you have fulfilled the promises that you have set out in a performance agreement, and before they will allow you to be nominated and then apply for a permanent residence. So it can be quite a long process. There may be better programs for you, such as, getting a work permit and then going the express entry route, or the other permanent resident programs for Hong Kong residents. So, no matter what, I think one of the biggest advice, if you take nothing away from us today, but this advice, is plan properly. If you plan, you will at least know what the path to success is. If you don't plan properly, if you just take the advice of someone who offers you one program without understanding your entire circumstance, then you can very well be spending a lot of money, or you can waste a lot of time for no good reason. Okay? All right. So, I also wanted to talk to you guys briefly about the intersection between immigration status and real estate. Because in Ontario, if you wanted to buy a house in the Golden Horseshoe area, which is the hottest area in Ontario, and right now real estate in Canada, it is, and Tania will tell you, it is going through the roof. And one of the hottest areas is in the Toronto region, all the way to the Niagara region, called the Golden Horseshoe. And if you wanted to buy a house in this area, the government has set a tax, which is 15%, called the non-resident speculation tax, for people who don't fall within this criteria. And so if you want to avoid the 15%, you need to plan early and understand your immigration status as well. So who does not have to pay the NRST? If you're a permanent resident or citizen. Now, a lot of people come to me because they think that they have lost their permanent residence. They say to me, Elizabeth, I obtained my permanent residence 10 years ago, for example, and I haven't been back to Canada yet. So according to the residence rules, you have to be in Canada 2 out of 5 years. I've lost my permanent residence. My answer to them is, wait a minute. You may not have lost your permanent residence. You can only lose your permanent residence if an officer takes it away. You can't just automatically lose your permanent residence. So unless you applied to come to Canada and the officer said, no, I am taking away your permanent residence. Not only can you not come, I've taken away your permanent residence because I've examined you and have said that you have not met your residency requirement. If no one has ever told you that your permanent residence has been taken away, then you still maintain your permanent residence. Now, very well, maybe later, if you do try to come to Canada, maybe the officer might take it away at that point. Okay, but if you're overseas and you want to purchase something and you have your permanent residence, then you are still exempt from the NRST when you purchase your permanent residence. And if later on down the road, in a few years, you lose your permanent residence, well, at the time when you purchased it, you're a permanent resident, so you don't have to pay the tax. There are other immigration status that will exempt you from NRST. For example, OIMP nomination. That is Ontario's provincial nominee program. Okay, and someone who has that and they've applied for permanent residence. If you're a protected person, you've claimed refugee status, and you have been found that you are a protected person, you are exempt from NRST. And if you're married to a citizen or a permanent resident, and you're married or common law for 3 years. This is different from the immigration definition of 1 year. Common law, you've lived together for 3 years with someone who is a citizen or permanent resident, and you're buying it together with them, you're exempt. So how it works with this is just if you say, well, you know what, my brother is a Canadian citizen and I'm not a permanent resident or citizen, I don't belong to any of the exempt groups. If I buy a house with him, it's exempt, right? Because he is a citizen. That's not how it works. If any of you who buy the property does not belong to one of these groups, permanent resident, citizen, etc., then you are not exempt from NRST, except if you're a spouse. Okay. Now, this is when you're buying the house. For people who want to qualify for a rebate, you can also claim back the tax. You can get a rebate back from the tax within 4 years of buying the house. And those are people who obtain their permanent residence within 4 years, or if you're a work permit holder and you work for 1 year, or if you're a study permit holder and you study for 2 years in Ontario in a qualified program. Okay, then you can claim back your tax. So going for a consultation, understanding your immigration situation is good, not only for your immigration situation, knowing whether or not you can actually stay in Canada, but also it's very good to do it even before you buy a property. So save your money and see how you can plan about that, okay? So this is our contact information at our firm. And if you've attended today, or you've watched the webinar afterwards, please do let us know and we will offer you a discounted rate for consultations. All right, so I'm going to open up this now for questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to type it up on the Q&A in here. Oh, we have something already. So someone has said that I am a Canadian citizen and I have declared non-resident. Do I need to pay for the non-resident speculation tax? No, if you're a Canadian citizen, it's all about your immigration status. If you're a Canadian citizen, then you don't have to pay the non-resident speculation tax. Tanya, do you ever get a lot of questions about these kind of things?
All the time.
Really?
Actually, we have a lot of people from overseas who really want to invest in the market. I'll get into it because, as we said, the market is really hot here. And of course, a lot of people who were Canadian citizen and then went back to live in Hong Kong, a lot of them want to come back here at one point in time. So they're actually planning to maybe even to get a property here now and like rent it out for now and then for themselves to live in later on. So a lot of people are thinking about that.
Yeah. 15% is certainly nothing to sneeze at, especially with these prices in Toronto. Right?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I have a question. Maybe you can help me out. So the open work permit, so is there an age limit for that? Because you mentioned the point system is if you're older than 30 then or 40, the points goes down. That's not good. So is there any limit for can a grandma goes and like take a course at a college and come over here?
Sure. Right now, there is no limit on.
That's amazing.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
Normally, age is a big factor in a lot of government decisions, but for this one, there is no limit. We don't know how long this program is going to be for, but with immigration, my advice normally to people is if you qualify, go and apply.
Mhm.
Because you never know how long it's going to be. We have an election that may be coming up in the next few months. And when the government changes, oftentimes policies change. So if you qualify for this, a lot of people might think, well, I'll do it after the pandemic is over, because right now I can't come anyway. My advice is, you know what, apply. And, if you get it, the pandemic will be over one of these days. It will be over one of these
I
days,
hope so.
right? It better be, right? And then if you have the approval, you can come over. Because
Mhm.
if you wait until after the pandemic, maybe we have another election at that time. This program is done, and then you would have lost your opportunity.
I have one more question. So you did mention that if the person is not studying the program within like Canada, so they have like some sort of ways to evaluate whether your program is eligible. So what if I want to be a chef in Canada? I'm just gonna go to a cooking school. Would that qualify?
Absolutely. We need a lot of chefs. We need a lot of chefs to come to Canada. We need people. It doesn't have to be, when I say high skilled work, often
Mhm.
people think, oh wow, you have to be like a professor or something like that. No, high skilled work, you can be in construction, and it's called high skilled work. You can
Mhm.
be a secretary, you can be an assistant, you can if you're working at a restaurant, if you're a supervisor of anything, you can be, it's high skilled. If you're the waitress, it's unfortunately not high skilled, but cooks, chefs, those are all considered high skilled.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Well, let's move on to yours, because I'm sure everyone is excited about the hottest real estate right now in Canada.
Yes. Okay. So let me take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Tania Wong. I'm a real estate agent here in Toronto. Uh, So 我係 Tania，咁我係今日嗰個呢個講座會係用英文嚟講啦，咁但係如果你想問問題打中文嘅亦都可以，我可以用中文回答。Okay, so let's move on. Let's talk about real estate market. So of course we need to find a place to live after you move to Canada. So we'll highlight a few things here. Let me share my screen quickly. So what we want to talk about today are three things. The first thing is what's happening with the real estate market here in Canada. The second thing is what are the types of housing? What are the options that you have here in Canada? Because there are quite a few more than what we see in Hong Kong. And what are the common areas that a lot of Hong Kong people like to stay in? And the last thing is how to get your hands on one of these properties. Okay, so let's dive in. So the real estate market in Toronto, one word is really hot. Okay. So we just had the data come out in February and we just passed the 1 million average price for homes in Toronto. And that's a 15% increase in price over last year. Okay, that's crazy. If your property value increasing 15% every year, that's pretty high. And in terms of transaction, we had an increase of 53% in transactions over last year. So lots of activity in the market. Now in the bottom, you can see here a graph of the home price index. What it shows is the trend of pricing of house prices over the past 10 years. So you can see almost like a double-digit growth year after year in the past 10 years. So in short, the market is very strong. It's fueled by immigration, as Elizabeth talked about, lots of students, lots of foreign investment. So the market is very, very strong, and we anticipate it to be continuing to grow in the near future. Okay, so it's a good time to invest. All right, so now the type of housing. So I think we're all familiar with condos. That's what we have in Hong Kong. So we have condos here too. The average price of condos here is about $642,000. So 400萬港紙. And the square footage is very varied. You can get a bachelor or up to a 3-bedroom apartment. And the square footage goes from 350 to 1,400 square feet in the big older condos. Now here we have some townhouses, 镇屋, and basically they are condos, but they are like, think of it as like a 2-story condo. It's still managed by a management company, so you don't have to go like shovel your snow or to like, fix your gardens. But you have kind of the luxury of living in a 2-story home. So the average price here is 858,000, and in Hong Kong dollar, 534萬港紙. And of course, it is a little bigger, so between 750 to 2,000 square feet. Now going bigger, we have the semi-detached home. So it is a house, but they're part of the house, usually a wall in the garage that is attached to your neighbors. So the reason why they do it, obviously to save some space, because our space is getting less and less, more scarce here. So the average price is over $1 million now in Canada. So 650萬港紙. And of course, the square footage is a little higher, between 1,000 to 2,000 square feet. And last but not least, the most expensive type of housing we have here is a detached home. So if you can see, like a detached home, you're gonna have a lot of space around you, backyard, front yard. That's the most sought after house, of course. And the average price is $1.3 million here. And it's 854, no, that's 854萬港紙, okay? So for a detached home, it can go from 1,500 square feet up to like, in the mansions, like 7,000 square foot. So if you we have like Drake's house, probably like 7,000 square foot over here. So you can see that even though you can see the different price range, it is still a lot more affordable than what you can get in Hong Kong. Okay. So moving on. So here I have a map of the Greater Toronto area. So we call it also called the GTA. So what you see in this green area is basically the Toronto area, the downtown core. So here you're going to find the financial district all over here. You're going to see a lot of universities. So University of Toronto, which is one of the top universities even in the world, is located here. Lots of activities, excitement over here. Now, when you go up to north, here you have the Finch. This is where the subway ends. So the subway runs in this green area. So there's a lot of people, especially the Asian communities. They like to live right here at the edge. So, oops, let's go back one slide. They live right at the edge where they have access to the subway, but also now going into these areas like Markham and Richmond Hill, which is really, really popular with the Asian communities. Why? As we talked about, food is important. So lots of good restaurants over here, lots of Chinese grocery stores. And you will see that in these communities, you can even survive speaking Cantonese or Mandarin in these areas. Okay, so now in terms of transportation, we talked about in this green area, that's where the subway runs. Now, when you go up away from the green area, we have a GO train that runs across the city all the way here. So you still, even if you're living out here, you still could get to this downtown core, but you might have to drive to get to your GO train station. So there is still option available even if you don't drive. Now, a lot of you, if you come here with your children, you're going to be very concerned with schools. So now in Canada, it's a little different. We actually assign the schools to you by the area you live. So when you actually choose a location to live, a lot of people actually find the school that you want to have your kids go to first. So for example, a lot of people will go to this website. It's fraser-institute.org. I put here. So basically it gives a ranking of all the elementary schools and high school here in Canada. And for example, there's like a really famous school, Pierre Trudeau High School is right here in Markham. In fact, a lot of top schools are sitting here in Markham, and that's why the pricing for this area is increasing a lot. So in this area, you'll see like different communities. Bercy has the Pierre Trudeau High School. We have Wisma, again, very actually they're actually famous or getting popular because of the schools. Okay, so this is definitely a very important factor to consider when you're looking for location. Now, next thing is lifestyle. As we said, here is where a lot of excitement happens. So if you're ones who like the Hong Kong style, you go downstairs, you have food to eat, it's like always partying, that's the area you want to be staying in. But if you come to Canada and you want to experience the greens and the quietness, like you might want to move up north or east or west out. So this is a lifestyle choice. Now, in terms of cost, of course, this is the golden areas. Most expensive is in the green area, in the downtown area. But because of the pandemic, we are seeing a trend of people actually moving away from the green area because people no longer need to stay in the office. So they're all working from home. So they want more space. So we're seeing a lot of people moving outwards to these areas. And now you're seeing the cause of actually these Vaughan, Markham, Richmond Hill area, the price of these areas actually increased like almost 23% in the past year. Okay, so the pricing of these areas is increasing, of course, because the demand is going up. So you're seeing a lot of changes like that. Okay, so now, should I rent or buy when I come here? My answer is always, if you have the capital, you should build your equity. Because why would you want to pay for someone else's mortgage? So always build your equity. If you have the money, buy, because as you see, especially in this market, the prices are increasing at like 15% a year. So you're going to be really getting your investment worthwhile, putting it in the properties. Now, if you're not buying, there are some requirements. If you come to Canada, when you rent a property, the landlord always asks you for the credit score, employment letter, pay stub, references. Now, if you're new in the country, you probably won't have any of those. Okay, credit score takes a little while to build up. You have to have credit cards here, pay off some credit cards. Employment letter, pay stub, not unless you start working. Now, even if you have a job offer, I've dealt with quite a few cases. Even if you have like amazing employment letter, I had a client who has 6-figure salary. Their job is starting in like 2 days. And the landlord's like, well, I don't know, you're going to be staying long. I don't know if they're going to fire you. I see that you have a permanent full-time job, but that's not secure for me. So it actually gets a little difficult renting here. So a lot of people, a lot of landlord they won't ask for it because it's illegal, but a lot of tenants will voluntarily pay upfront of 6 months to 1 year of rent in order for the landlord to agree to rent to you. Okay, so renting is actually quite difficult when you're new in the country. Okay, so now let's move on to buying. Okay, if you have the cash from Hong Kong, excellent. Just put down your cash and you're done. Okay, so if you don't have the cash, you might have to get a mortgage. Now, there's some requirements for mortgage. Actually, it is easier than you think. So you actually need to only to put down 5% down payment of the value of your house. And if you pay less than 20% of down payment, just note that there's going to be a mortgage insurance applied. So it's just an insurance to make sure that you don't default your mortgage. Now, there's a small requirement here for new people here in Canada. You need to have at least worked for 3 months full time in order to qualify to apply for one of these mortgages. Now, if you are a self-employed person or you're trying to buy a second property, then these rules don't apply. Okay, so this is just for your first home here, trying to help you settle down. These are the minimum requirement. So in one sense, it is actually almost easier to buy a place if you're new in Canada. Okay. So that's just a very quick overview. Don't want to bore you with it, but definitely if you have more questions, please feel free to contact me. I've been working with a lot of people overseas, as you know that we're getting a lot of immigration over here. So please feel free, reach out to me to discuss your specific questions. So now I'm going to open up For questions, I'm going to stop sharing here. Oops.
Yes, and so please feel free to list your questions on here. In the meantime, Tanya, I was just wondering, what do you think is going to happen after the pandemic? So we've seen a lot of, hurry right now to buy outside of the core, Toronto core.
Mhm.
I understand even in the downtown core, some of the prices before had been stabilized a little bit because people weren't buying there. What do you think is going to happen after the pandemic?
So this is a very interesting question because everyone's wondering that. So during the pandemic, basically, everyone's working from home. The downtown core right now is quite empty. So the offices are empty. The renters are leaving. They left, move up north. There's no need to be downtown. So the rental prices actually dropped significantly in the downtown core. And according to a lot of companies, and I talked to a lot of people, many companies have not even planned for their workers to go back to the office. They are allowing workers to voluntarily go back to the office. So this is really up to the employees. But there's a study that went out, and I guess people are getting sick of working from home. So actually, a lot of people do want to go back to the office for just the community, to interact with your colleague. It is easier to collaborate in person. So we already start seeing the downtown rental prices going back up, the the real estate price going back up, because also we're seeing a lot of immigration, a lot of students coming in at this point, coming before September. So Canada is starting to open up the borders, as you know, for certain people who had the job offer already, people who have the student visa, they started coming in. So now the rental prices are actually going back up. So the estimate is from what we're seeing, there is a big dip right now, but it is all going to come back up in no time. And we're already seeing price increase, like sellers are actually changing their sale price, and we're talking about increasing by $100,000 for a condo, like from what they were trying to sell before. So the trend is there, coming back up.
I think a lot of it, immigration and real estate in Toronto really interact together
Mm-hmm.
because we are such an immigration country, and 80% of all immigrants come to Toronto. And it seems to me, because the borders were closed for a long time for international students, and because the classes are online, a lot of international students just decided they didn't want to come to Canada at this point in time. I
Mm-hmm.
think that a lot of the universities and colleges are going back in class for
Yep.
September. And
Yep.
probably do you think that might be a reason why the downtown, where University of Toronto and York, well, York is uptown, but University of Toronto and Ryerson and
Yeah,
most,
definitely. To
yeah,
be honest, I'm working with quite a few clients, and they are coming from a country together in like they were asking me to find a house for 7 people. I'm
mhm,
like, 7 people? They're like, yeah, we're all coming here to study in the same program, and we're from the same like city, and they're all moving together. And I'm like, really? And it is this popular right now for all the students to come in. And I've also worked with a lot of people who are coming in with job offers. So like all the companies here are opening up their borders. They're offering international, as you said, high skilled workers to come in, and they are offering them really high pay as well. So I'm seeing a lot of these people coming in, even at this moment during pandemic. The only people that I've talked to that I guess were kind of stopped to wait for the borders open is people who are lending. Is that correct?
right, that's right. So if
Yeah.
you're outside of Canada right now, they're not letting you land, which means get your your permanent residence could have been approved. They're just not letting you come to Canada to land. Um,
Mhm.
so they will be doing that as soon as the borders are opening, and they're already planning for that as well.
Do you
So
know when that would be, like the border to open?
your guess is as good as mine. The prime minister has promised that he has said that we should all be able to get the vaccine by September. So I don't know. A lot of businesses, a lot of people who are predicting things are thinking that September might be the time.
Mhm.
So fingers crossed, hopefully. And if you think the real estate market is hot right now, I think it's going to get even
So that means get your real estate now before September, right? Like, I
I
mean,
would.
honestly,
I would.
like for
Yeah.
those who are actually interested in investing in Canada, um, the prices, even from what we see from December to January to February, we are seeing like an increase every single month, which is insane. It's like, I don't know, we've never seen that before. So I guess it's a good time to be in real estate. But the moral of the story is like, do it early rather than later. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been in Canada since, sorry, I've been in Toronto since 2001. And I bought my first house when it was only 350,000.
Oh
And
my God, yes.
I thought at that point it was so expensive for a house. And
Yeah.
now it's increased like 4 times,
Yeah.
by that time. So Tanya, another question I often get from clients is what happens if they don't have any ties to Canada?
Mhm.
How difficult is it for them to get a mortgage if they're from overseas?
So actually, it's quite easy. As I said earlier, all you need to do is to have like 3 months of full-time job. So you prove that you've been working for 3 months, like you're past your probation period and you're kind of stable here. And then all you need to do is to put down 5% down payment. So of course, the Canadian bank is your Canadian lender is going to verify your 5% to make sure it's like a credit like funds. But other than that, basically you're here 3 months, like, and I have clients do that. They come here, again, as I said, they have like a high paying job offer here, so they have the resources. All they do is they rent for 3 months and then they buy a property, because
Yeah,
they will be able to get a mortgage based on their current salary. And because of the 3 months work experience, it shows that they're pretty stable and you'll be able to get a mortgage.
now we have a question from someone here. Um,
Mhm.
he says he can't work in Canada. He's working full time in Hong Kong. In that case, is it difficult to get a mortgage in Canada? So, is someone who doesn't come to Canada at all, they're just from overseas, they just want to buy an investment property.
It is definitely a little harder. So if you are actually not living in Canada, you will have to pay a down payment of 35% or more.
Mhm.
Okay, so instead of the 5%, you'll have to pay at least 35%. And you have a maximum loan amount of $750,000. Okay, so I mean, for a condo, that's pretty doable. But like if you're getting to the detached home, the most expensive one, and you got getting to like a $2 million, so that would be you will have a restrictions, okay, on that. And what also restricts you also to buy only resale, so an existing home or pre-construction that is closing within the 120 days. So that's the restrictions. So you need to pay 35% down payment. You need to buy something that's already existing or about to complete, and you can only get up to $750,000. So that's a little bit more of a restriction if you're overseas.
And also, I think it depends on the bank. It depends on your own personal circumstances.
Mhm.
So it's not a one size fits all. It's not a simple answer to everybody. Definitely
Exactly.
Tanya, and she can introduce you to some good mortgage brokers
Yeah.
who can see what they can do.
So like just a quick thing about the kind of lending institution here. We have our banks, which are the what we call the A lenders. And they, usually it's harder to qualify for mortgage there. But then we also have your B and C lenders, you have credit unions, you have trust funds, and those are also other vehicles to lend you money, and not necessarily more expensive actually. Sometimes you'll be so surprised that There are certain institutions that are not banks that will give you a better interest rate. And also one thing to notice is that a lot of people will think that, oh, I'm new in Canada, or like I'm not actually even living in Canada, I'm from overseas. Would my interest rate be really high? No, not really. Sometimes you're talking about like a 1% difference between yourself and someone who's been in Canada working all their lives. So again, there depends on your circumstance. It will vary. And then I would add that interest rate right now is ridiculously low.
Yep.
And that's why the market is so hot. So you can get a 5-year fixed mortgage for 1.5%.
It's
Like, who has heard that? Like, I like if you're like super amazing client, like you can even qualify. I've heard 0.99%, like on a
nice
mortgage.
to give
Like,
you some money. It's almost like just
yeah. So like, why would you not invest?
yeah.
Like that's the thing I tell clients, and a lot of people are like, oh, I want to save up. I want to save up. I don't want to put, pay mortgage interest. But if you think about the prices going at 15% a year, and you're going to pay, okay, be conservative. Let's say you pay 2% interest. You're still making 13% of the increase in value of the housing. And that is why it's crazy hot right now. I mean, right now, transaction versus last year increased by 53%. So you can see the reason and the correlation. And yeah, it's going to keep going. It's an exciting time.
But
So lots of overseas investment. If you're planning, even if you're not going to immigrate to Canada right now, you can start looking at your investment options, and then so you have a place ready when you come.
awesome.
Okay.
So, well, thank you guys all for joining us today and for your great questions. We look forward to speaking with you about your investment and move to Canada. Take care, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you so much. I hope to talk to you and help you in the future. Take care.